Most people think saving money means piling a bunch of cash into one account and calling it a day. But that's actually one of the biggest mistakes you can do with your money. And yes, that includes saving endlessly into a high yield savings account, which is an account that many of us love oh so much. So why can this mistake cost you? Well, it's pretty simple, because if all of your money is in one pile, one theoretical pile. If all of your money is in one account, what it means is you're typically not being intentional with your savings. And when you don't have intention, when you don't have a more complete plan with your finances, you'll often feel stressed and wonder if you're doing enough. So let's talk about it. For those new here, hello, and welcome. My name is Lissa. I'm a personal finance expert and a certified financial planner. In my last video, I went in depth about why saving money alone is never gonna make you wealthy. It's rarely ever gonna make you feel financially secure if you just hoard a bunch of money, put it into a savings account, and hope that everything's gonna be okay in the future. So in this video, I wanna talk about what to do instead. Basically covering the how of building wealth. I want to give you a simple 3-step system that's going to help you make your savings work harder for you without getting too overcomplicated or overwhelming. So this is especially great if you're a beginner who's just starting to get your finances in order, or if you've already started improving your personal finances and maybe you want a gut check that you're doing the right things. Now, if you missed my last video, here's a quick summary. Saving is important, and it's an amazing skill to have compared to not saving and just spending everything that you make, never having a plan for the future, and not thinking about what money you would tap into if you ran into an emergency. However, the problem with only saving money is that it rarely, if ever, leads to financial security, feeling financially secure. In almost all cases, simply saving as your only financial strategy is going to keep you dependent on a job or dependent on someone else without giving you the freedom that real financial security and real wealth building can bring you. So, long story short, just saving without investing, without planning for future goals is usually going to bring you some stress down the line in your financial life. So let's talk about how to make a shift. The shift is simple. If wealth is a priority for you and you really want to turn your financial life around, stop just saving. Start being intentional. So rather than just putting money aside, putting it all into one savings account, and then dipping into it whenever you feel like it, I want you to create a plan. Now, this is not something I did in my 20s or even my early 30s. It wasn't until I started getting my financial life organized that I started doing this. Now, I earmark my money for different needs and different goals. So as you save money, which again, it's a great skill to have, I want you to start asking yourself, is this savings for emergencies? Is it my emergency fund? Is this for travel? Is this for retirement? Is this for money that I do want in the future, but I don't know what it's for yet, right? That could be a bucket in itself. When I started saving, I did this. I threw everything into one account. And honestly, it felt great. It felt amazing when I saw my balance grow from $10 to $100 to $1,000. And eventually when I grew my savings to over $10,000. But here's the problem. Every time an emergency came up, or anytime I wanted to travel or do this or do that or buy this or buy that, I didn't know how much money was safe to spend. When I did dip into that account and saw the balance go down, it always felt like I was going back to square one. So yes, I believe saving helped me, because when you have money to take care of things like emergencies or even fun expenses, it's helping prevent you from going into debt. That's a great thing. But like I said, with me, when I didn't have a plan, it's not that having that cushion of money ever made me feel financially secure. It just made me more stressed. I saved a bunch and then I used it, and then I was stressed about having to build it up again. And even when I built it up, I still felt stressed. If you are ready to turn your financial life around, let's talk about a quick win system that I recommend. It's simple, it's flexible, and it works for anyone no matter where you're at in your financial journey. Step number 1, I want you to define your financial goals. Ask yourself, what do I need money for now, in current day, soon, foreseeable future, and later, in the distant future? The thing is, there isn't a one-size-fits-all way to set up your accounts. Some people actually manage their entire financial life with 1 or 2 bank accounts, while other people have like 10 or more. Neither is right or wrong, but the real question is whether your money management system and the way you set up your finances supports your goals. And by goals, I mean 2 basic things. What do you want to use your money for? And when are you going to need it? Based on those answers, you can essentially sort your money into 4 buckets. Your current needs, that would be things like your day-to-day spending, your rent, your groceries, your subscriptions, your fun money. That would be your current needs. I also believe in having a whole separate bucket for emergency savings. This is your safety net for when life happens, when there's a medical emergency, if you lose your job. This is a bucket that you save for and you build up, and once you build it up, it just sits there. You don't have to keep adding to it endlessly. The next bucket is what I consider short-term goals. Think about anything you want in the next few months to the next few years. It could range from things like vacations, moving, a down payment for a house or a car, a wedding, any other big expense that in some cases 1 or 2 paychecks might not cover it. So there are things that you have to save towards. And then we have your long-term goals. Now, medium-term goals, I kind of group with long-term a lot of the times. So if you're wondering why there's no medium-term, it's because I kind of group it together. But I think of long-term goals as anything you need money for 5, 10, 20 years out, and often that means all the way to thinking about your retirement. But your medium and long-term goals don't just have to be retirement. Do you want to go back to school ever? Do you want to start a family? Do you want to build wealth generally so that you can increase your lifestyle expenses in the future? These are all things to think about, and if there are things you want in your life, in your future, you have to start putting money towards them. So that is step 1. You're simply defining what you want to save money for, and more importantly, starting to think about when you're going to need it. Now, step number 2 is the reason I believe in your goals by time horizon. Step 2 is about matching each of those goals to the right account or accounts. Because basically, once you know what your financial goals are, you can start figuring out where to put your money that you are saving and investing for the future. So for example, we talked about your current needs. Your current needs are things like your day-to-day living expenses and money that you need right now. For most people, this means keeping it in a checking account. Some people like to keep one account where all of that money sits in, and others like to split accounts. Like for example, one account is for fixed bills, regular automated payments, and another account is for more flexible spending. Either way works, it's really up to you, but I want you to start thinking about that money as your money for your current needs. Next bucket is your emergency savings. A very popular place to keep your emergency savings is in a high yield savings account. So a savings account that typically earns a higher interest APY than traditional savings accounts. But the real idea here is that you're keeping your money somewhere liquid, somewhere where you have access to it. Sometimes it might take a day or 2 if you have to transfer money from an online account to a regular checking account. But the idea is that the money is fairly accessible and it's also safe. Safe typically means that you have deposit insurance. If you're in the United States, that typically looks like FDIC insurance or NCUA insurance if you bank with a credit union. Now, even though a lot of people talk about saving their emergency savings fund in a high yield savings account, just want you to know that that's not the only option. There are other actual strategies for ways to save money while getting a return depending on your risk tolerance. But we're not going to go into that in this video. I just want you to know that there's really not one prescriptive way to do any of this. That's why my videos are more educational than trying to give anyone financial advice, because I think it's impossible to help each one of you build your financial system out without knowing your own personal situation. Next, we have your short-term goals, which are, again, those things that are in the near future. You kind of want to save for these things. Oftentimes, where you keep this short-term money is also going to be somewhere safe and accessible and liquid, similar to your emergency savings, but it can also range depending on your time horizon, your time frame, as well as your risk tolerance. Some people invest this money, but what they choose to invest in might be lower risk than other types of investments. And finally, your medium and your long-term goals. This is money, again, that you don't need for a while, so you actually have the flexibility and freedom to potentially invest this money so that it can grow over time. For retirement, typically that means retirement accounts because there are benefits to contributing to retirement accounts, but it can also mean taxable brokerage accounts or other types of investments. The idea is that if you are building wealth for the future, you're not just letting your money sit in a savings account, attracting dust and losing value due to inflation. The idea is that money for the long term, you pick and choose what fits your risk profile and you invest money hoping that it gives you a return in the future. So when you match your goals, your financial goals, to the right accounts and the right financial strategies, your money actually has a job. It starts to create clarity about your financial plan and you know exactly what that money is for. Yes, your goals can change and you can move money around, but at least you set up a system that starts to give you clarity about what the money is going to be used for, rather than saving money in a savings account endlessly, using it, and then having to build it back up. It's a different way of looking at your finances. And finally, step number 3, setting realistic amounts. I want you to decide how much you can realistically put into each bucket. This isn't about saving as much as possible, being extremely frugal, burning yourself out, having a cushion of money but still feeling stressed regardless. It's all about being consistent and realistic with your cash flow. Starting to understand how much money to put towards your current lifestyle and your current needs versus anything in the future is going to start giving you more clarity about your finances, and it might even motivate you to start putting more towards those longer term goals. Even if you can only put $25 a month into an emergency fund and $50 a month into longer term goals like retirement, I think that's progress. It took me starting with small amounts and then increasing them over time when I got used to the habit and when I started making more, to finally get to that point where my money was growing more and more in these various accounts and contributing towards their goals. It's about creating structure for your finances so that your goals can align with your money management system. My advice, if you are just starting out, don't try to do all 4 buckets at once. Literally start simple. List out your goals, but then start with 1 or 2 categories. Start with that account for emergency funds or a retirement account for your long-term future, especially if you have one offered at your employer. If you just split your savings into your current needs and then one of those buckets to start with, that's going to make a huge difference. And then you're going to see that doing this habit again and again over time is going to become so much easier and just part of your everyday routine, that you're going to be more motivated to continue with the rest of your plan. So if you want some help planning this out, I actually have a free printable worksheet linked in the pinned comment, so go ahead and check that out. Make sure you get that download. It's going to help you write out your goals and then start organizing those goals by time frame. So, confession, this simple 3-step system isn't the system I used for myself, but that's simply because when I was trying to get my finances organized, I didn't know anything. I was just trying things, seeing what stuck. So it took me a really, really long time, years and years, to really get organized. However, in hindsight, now that I'm able to look back at the path it took me to get out of debt, to stop living paycheck to paycheck, to build wealth, and to actually have a net worth I feel so confident in. Now that I could see all of that in hindsight, that's how I'm able to look back and see, oh, it's pretty simple. If you've never started on your finances, just get started. Simple 3-step system. Set up your financial goals, organize them by time frame, and let that determine what accounts you need, and then start making consistent contributions to those various buckets. I've seen a lot of people go from financial stress to finally feeling in control just by starting to organize their savings in this way. I hope that these small shifts can change how secure and how confident you feel with money. In my next video, I'll show you exactly how I organized my finances and how it ended up being this system step by step, even though I didn't know it. So I want to share with you how my goals looked like and how I set it up to build wealth over time so that maybe you believe it actually can work for you as well. As always, I appreciate you for watching, and until next time, peace out.